through the State of Georgia General Assembly and a resolution adopted by the Alpharetta City Council on September 3rd, 1996. The function of the authority is to promote the public good and general welfare, trade, commerce, industry, general tax base, and the employment opportunities available in the city of Alpharetta. First on the agenda would be to make a motion to take the agenda items slightly out of order so that we're going to move item 4B will be first, so the Tech Alpharetta General Update presentation. Then we'll go into new business, and then we'll add 4A, the Windward Highway 9 LCI presentation. So would someone like to make a motion to move the agenda items out of order?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor? All right, so we've got 5 for 5. We do have our quorum, so then first on our agenda, we're going to have Karen come up and give a presentation on what's going on with Tech Alpharetta.
Thank you. That's better. So by way of general update, I just wanted to update you all with some metrics on year-to-date, what's been happening with Tech Alpharetta. We have held 16 programs and/or events year-to-date, not including our Women's Forum. It's been an extremely busy and productive first 4 months of the year. And those programs have served more than 750 tech executives year-to-date. And really, we're just getting started. We still have 8 months left in the year. And have been extremely successful, including our Atlanta Unlocked event, which is the event where we invited the entire Metro entrepreneurial ecosystem to come on up and learn about our incubator and about what's happening in Alpharetta, and featured several executives speaking from local Alpharetta tech companies, as well as our own startups. And Mayor Gilvin also said a welcome to the crowd. It was an extremely successful event that we feel really highlighted and showcased what Alpharetta as well as Tech Alpharetta have to offer. That was April 11th over at the center. We also had a very successful CIO speed dating fundraiser this year where vendors pay to come and pitch to 10 CIOs in the room. We do that every year, and it continues to be very successful. You all have received in your packet on page 123 of your packet, I believe, a flyer for our upcoming June 13th annual Summer Tech Mixer. You are all invited. I hope that you can join us there for a little while at Never Enough Time right here on the green. So we hopefully look forward to seeing you all there. From an incubator standpoint, we have had a steady 56 tech startup members, tech startup companies at our incubator since the beginning of the year. And it's been extremely busy over there. A lot of people coming and going. We've just recently launched a new startup meetup, which is a startup sales roundtable that meets once a month. And our first one launched last month and was very well attended for our first startup meetup. We've had one of our longtime med device companies have a successful $2.9 million raise from the National Institutes of Health recently as well, which was great news in a difficult fundraising climate still for startups. And we are full speed ahead on that. We're also planning our 4th annual Golf Classic, which will be taking place September 30th at the Manor Golf and Country Club. We're participating in Atlanta Tech Week on June 10th, which we are combining forces with our partner Atlanta Tech Park, an accelerator, a startup accelerator in Peachtree Corners, to help shine the spotlight again on what's happening with the suburban outside the perimeter incubators. So that is coming up on June 10th, and I'll be speaking at a panel there, and we'll be showcasing some of our startups. And we'll also be involved once again this year with InnovaTL, which is the It was really put together, I guess, by Startup Atlanta, an organization in Atlanta, to bring together all the different disparate elements of the tech and innovation ecosystem throughout the metro area, collaborate and help put the metro area and the region on the map as a tech powerhouse, sort of also aligns nicely with, I know the mayor of Atlanta has made it his goal to have Atlanta be known as a top 5 tech hub. But this is, Atlanta Inno is really a regional play to put the whole region in the spotlight nationally for everything that's happening here from an innovation standpoint. So we've got our hands in a lot of things right now, and we're on track in terms of our financials for the year to date as well. So I just wanted to open it up to any questions you might have in terms of metrics, and I can address now or under the new business section of this evening's agenda, the progress towards a new lease for the new incubator space.
Anybody have any questions before we move on to that? You might as well stay up there.
Okay.
Next, thank you very much for the update.
Absolutely.
It's outstanding, as always. So next on the agenda is the Memorandum of Understanding providing Development Authority subsidy to Tech Alpharetta. So do you want, Lance is going to give us a brief overview, and then Karen will be here to take us through.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So before you is a memorandum of understanding between Tech Alpharetta and the Development Authority, if executed, for an additional subsidy to Tech Alpharetta up to $30,000. And the reason for this is Tech Alpharetta will be making an impending move in 2024. The current space occupied off Webbridge Road is a city-owned facility, as I'm sure all of you know. Public safety has indicated the need to acquiesce that space back for their needs. The Criminal Investigations Division is stacked on top of each other in cubicles, and the City Council has made the decision to move forward and moving those city employees into that building. So over the last year or so, we've been working behind the scenes with Tech Alpharetta and a local commercial real estate broker who has been a great assistant to Karen on this real estate search and identified a key location that both Tech Alpharetta and the city feel like will be a very successful space. But because of this move, there will be added costs, of course. So how this MOU is bifurcated is, if executed, the Development Authority would initially make a $10,000 available to help subsidize the rent cost that Tech Alpharetta will be now incurring in this new space. And the second part of this MOU is to make available up to $20,000 for the cost of the physical move itself, of moving the physical entities within Tech Alpharetta into this new space, which of course is a costly endeavor, even if it's only 1.5 miles down the road. So that is how we have structured it, working with Tech Alpharetta and trying to address their needs as we work through these public dollars in a judicious manner. So happy to answer any questions that you all may have for city staff in terms of any kind of lease question structure of that nature that I believe Karen would probably be the best suited for that, for what she's comfortable sharing. I do want to stress that the deal has not been inked yet. It is not finalized. So there is some concerns there surrounding privacy.
So when we had talked about this, my only concern is just because being in the city area, we kind of were guaranteed that you had a space. Now, as far as the new space, are we looking at a 5-year lease? I mean, what is the term, if you can discuss that?
Yeah. We reached an agreement in principle, nothing inked, late last week with the landlord of the space that we have been walking our executive board and finance committee members through, and we've received a draft lease. So as soon as our board has either approved or disapproved of the terms of the agreement, we'll then negotiate the terms of the lease, and would hope to have that signed by May 21st. The lease would be 10 years and 10 months.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, Karen. If I could interrupt for a moment. I know we have a member who was going to recuse on this item, and that really needs to take place before this proceeds.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to abstain from voting since I'm co-owner of this building that I think they're negotiating with. And by the way, I've had no involvement in any negotiation, so it's a great building, great location, but I'll abstain from this vote.
Okay.
Is that all I need?
You'll need to follow.
Okay, sure.
Mr. Chair, if I may also just interject, and thank you, James, for bringing that to our attention. Obviously, I think everyone has reviewed this MOU that I took a look at and offered some input on as the legal counsel for the Development Authority as well. And of course, how this is structured currently is not in any way dependent on location, term, or any of the details of whatever lease that they worked out. So just so everyone's aware, whether it's this deal that hasn't been inked yet, or whether that, God forbid, falls apart and you have to do something else, it would still be, this funding would still be available to Tech Alpharetta.
So thank you. And in the event that this particular lease is executed, it would be a 10-year and 10-month lease with, likely a 5-year possible out clause as well. So that would be the actual structure of it. We've been negotiating it so that it would be backloaded rather than front-loaded from a standpoint of any rent credits that are being given to us, to give us a little bit of lead time to build up the number of rentals in the building. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
So what would the timing look like in terms of being able to build out a space and get into the space?
Yeah, if we do sign the lease for this particular space, which isn't far from where we're located, we haven't gotten a firm date yet from the landlord, because the landlord needs to speak with their architect and the construction team once the lease is signed before they can give us the firm official move-out date, or move-in date, excuse me. But we did notice that the draft lease that was sent over had the date of October 1st on it, which sometime thereabout is probably correct because of the fact that there is a build-out involved of the space.
What are some maybe new opportunities this presents Tech Alpharetta with size, or are there some things, some benefits, I mean, hypothetically, if you end up in this space that you're looking forward to that will benefit Tech Alpharetta?
Yeah, absolutely. Although the square footage of this particular space is smaller than our current square footage. Our current square footage is 8,800 square feet. This potential space is 7,400 square feet, I believe. It is laid out far more efficiently in such a way that we can double the number of offices that we have for rent, thereby increasing the rent revenue that comes in from the incubator, and thereby serving more tech startups in the community. So from that respect, it would certainly be advantageous, as well as from just strictly a competitive standpoint. There have been a lot of co-working spaces that have cropped up around Alpharetta and the neighboring communities. Many of these are modern, shiny, state-of-the-art spaces that make it difficult for us to compete on price. And I think we'd be in a much better position to compete on price from a pricing standpoint in the new space, which is a Class A office space. And there's also 700 parking spaces.
And Mr. Chairman and Board, if I may add, just to clear the air of any confusion, this is a separate funding mechanism coming directly from the Development Authority's coffers versus what we have seen in previous years, where it's the $95,000 being sent from the city to the Development Authority to disperse to Tech Alpharetta. We do expect to bring that ask before the City Council within the next month or so, and it would be something, if approved, that y'all would be seeing again. But just to clear the air, this is a separate entity.
And is the city good with the timing?
The city has had consistent conversations with Tech Alpharetta over the last year about this. Karen did alert economic development staff this week about kind of where she kind of thinks the ultimate timeline will be. And I don't want to speak for City Council, but they have indicated willingness and understanding that it does take time for build out and such.
And Mr. Chair, spoke with staff before the meeting tonight, and because I know there is this concern about the current term of the sublease and how, that affects this with the current lease expiring, I believe, on June 30th. So we're going to be taking a look both at the first-party lease between the city and the Development Authority and the sublease agreement to see what documents we need to, look at drafting to hopefully effectuate a smooth transition as Tech Alpharetta moves into this new property. We just don't know what that's going to look like right now because we haven't looked at documents. But I'll be speaking with the city attorney and hopefully, working that out within the next couple of weeks.
And I'll be keeping economic development in the loop as we go along, as we get updates on the move-in date.
Other thoughts, comments, questions? Well, would someone like to make a motion for, not to influence anything, but, for Tech Alpharetta, which is a leading generator, a poster child for Alpharetta?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding for Tech Alpharetta in assisting in their move to a new location.
May I, as legal counsel, offer a friendly amendment
Sure, please
to
do.
that motion, that it would also be to authorize the chair to execute any and all necessary documents to effectuate the MOU.
Yeah, you can second. Those in favor? So it's unanimous 4 for 4. So thank you for everything that you do and will continue to do for the Development Authority, for the City of Alpharetta, and for the tech community.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
all your support.
And I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chair, and the rest of the Development Authority members for allowing us to take those items out of order tonight to accommodate my schedule. It's been a pleasure being with y'all tonight, but I do have to jet out to meet a personal obligation.
Now we
tonight,
can
so,
screw everything up.
Yeah. Lance will keep you on track.
I'll try.
But thank you all so much.
Have fun. So with that, we can now go on to item 4A, the Windward Highway 9 LCI presentation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be presenting this to you tonight. Mr. Drinkard's going to pull up the slides for you all in just a second. Oh, they're on their screen. Great. So I believe back last fall, this board got a bit familiar with this project. We had the consultants come speak before you all back in September, I believe, about the ongoing Windward Highway 9 LCI that we are doing in a joint project with the True North 400 CID and the City of Milton. That was about midway through the project when you all last heard an update on this. And given that the Development Authority's interest in the Windward Corridor, specifically with the funding of the Windward Technical Assistance Panel, the approval of the Connect Forward grant, this seemed like a natural meshing of information to bring back before you all. This was adopted by the City Council back in March by the City of Alpharetta, and then last month by the City of Milton. Both cities and the CID feel very proud of this document that had a great deal of public input. So just kind of giving you some background context to this, and we'll kind of run through the slides of the general deliverables of this LCI. So this map depicts kind of the general coverage area that was focused on, and this project lasted about a year, kicked off in late May of last year, and with a conclusion in April of the current year. Focusing on the Windward Corridor, both encompassing the Deerfield area of Milton, in the Highway 9 area of Milton, as well as the Windward Parkway Corridor and parts of North Point and Highway 9 in the City of Alpharetta. And so how LCIs have worked in their function is to garner a great deal of public input. It's something that is very important by nature, both to an LCI project itself, but also all parties involved. We had several stakeholder meetings, one at the North Fulton Chamber at Avalon, one at the Hilton and Windward, where we had a great deal of attendance. Members of the public came out and we got their input. You know, that's what's most important, to see how they envision this critical node for the city in the years moving forward, to help guide the staffs across the two cities and the CID in terms of making strategic investments in infrastructure and decisions relating to that. And additionally, something that is probably of great interest to this board, and certainly from the economic development team, was the employer survey that we conducted that got nearly 1,000 responses from Windward area companies. As I'm sure all of you know, Windward is a hotbed of our top employers. I believe 8 out of 10 of our top 10 employers are in the Windward corridor. So it was really good to get that feedback, and actually a great thanks to Tech Alpharetta. Many of our top employers serve on Tech Alpharetta's board, and that having a foot in the door to get this important information was even easier because of those relationships. So that was very, very important. And so one of the things we learned in these community meetings, as well as the general survey results, is people see the great deal of potential that Windward has and the great things that already exist in the Windward area, but there's a great deal of room for improvements, particularly in terms of walkability and accessibility. Given that we have such a large corporate presence, the walkability of the area beyond the Big Creek Greenway, which is a tremendous asset, is something that we got a lot of feedback on could be improved in terms of walking to restaurants and access to things like that, or even potentially taking a different mode of transportation to work, whether that be public transit via MARTA bus, or simply even riding one's bike. So that was pretty consistent feedback that we got throughout the project. And again, this kind of gives you a snapshot of that feedback, particularly from the online survey. A great deal of respondents indicated a willingness to walk or bike under 20 minutes for lunch, things of that nature. So it really kind of gave us a unique insight into what these employees are thinking about this critical area of the city. Again, more of the 5 key takeaways: quality of the built environment, lacks some authentic and local experiences, kind of creating creative placemaking. It's a term in planning that you all probably are familiar with as well, but making a place even more exciting and inviting in a unique place. And the criticism, of course, major highways divide with Georgia 400, as well as the thoroughfares that are Windward Parkway and Highway 9. And so 4 big ideas. How can we improve on some of these issues that people indicated to us were issues and things they would like to see improved? One of the things that people point to, again, is the traffic. Anybody who's driven on Windward around lunchtime or at 5 o'clock knows that it is quite a congested artery. And some of the ways that cities could work together to create a more diverse transit opportunities in terms of increased sidewalk usage and such, that's all in line with that general feedback of people who are willing to potentially get out and walk or ride their bike places. They just need the infrastructure to do it. And so these were proposed trail connections that the team came up with, our consultants at MKSK. Many of this is tying into some of our existing trail networks. We all know what a great asset the Big Creek Greenway is and how it runs through the heart of Windward, which was part of the impetus for the Connect Forward grant that this board approved back late last year. And so this is just showing some of those potential opportunities where we can tie in some of the area's top employers, your ADPs, your Pfizer's, Global Payments, what have you. They're all out there that are major players in the community that might have an interest in connecting into these spots. And this shows the future of Windward Parkway, making it more walkable, having native tree planters, making it more inviting, kind of using the built environment in terms of trees and grasses and such to kind of be a buffer between pedestrians and the traffic, which is something that is very often pointed to as somewhat low-hanging fruit in the planning world. Of course, there's a lot that goes into it. You're working with Georgia DOT, working with the Public Works Department, the city, and what have you. But these are just some general ideas that have been executed elsewhere. The Camp Creek Trail System, again, these are just proposals and ideas that MKSK came up with. This tends to be a little bit heavier on the Milton side, where this is depicted before you in the Deerfield area. There's some stormwater detention area, some natural features that would be natural The city of Milton has indicated a willingness to focus on the Deerfield area as the city continues to grow and connecting in eventually to our trail system in Alpharetta, which is more robust. And again, more depictions of kind of the serenities and amenities, different draws to office, which is something I know this board knows quite well through our conversations about the Connect Forward grant. You know, the consultants were made available both by you all in their September meeting that these were conversations that were being had, and we kept them abreast as that moved forward and ultimately got approved by this board, and they felt like that was a very creative and powerful thing that the Development Authority was investigating, something that's unique. And so certainly something that they found as a deliverable to encourage this board and others to continue to be creative in that environment. Placemaking and identity strategy, again, creative placemaking is something that tends to help draw people into an area a bit more. You can think of areas around the Beltline. You can think of areas, different cities across the metro, and including in Alpharetta around the existing Alpha Loop Trail network that invite people in. It's creating some of these similar opportunities by way of public art, events, what have you, in this critical windward node. Two communities, destinations, again, working with our City of Milton partners to come together on what we share in this general area. Again, more real estate positioning, potentially room for more small-scale mixed use. We're already seeing that a little bit with Continuum, which I know this board is familiar with, including when we did our tour at our last meeting. And, the study indicated there could be room for more of kind of these smaller mixed-use developments across the windward area where it makes sense as real estate repositions moving forward over the next decade or two. Implementation, being realistic about multiple cities and timelines and such, building some of these ideas into capital projects that come about yearly that staff makes asks of the city council when allocating funds. Potential public-private partnership opportunities that could exist. Further studies. I know this board has been supportive, of course, of the technical assistance panel and studies like that, our economic development strategic plan. All of these kind of come together to create an overarching framework that can help guide the city over the years. And that was just kind of a general run through. How LCIs work is they're a bit different than, say, a comprehensive plan that a city council approves or economic development strategic plan that was approved and this board is familiar with. The city's not held necessarily to many of these deliverables. They're just general ideas to help guide staff and the elected officials when making decisions over the next few years. And many of these deliverables, it was put together with the idea that it's an evolution and it would take time. These are not things that are going to come about overnight. But happy to answer any questions that you all may have for staff with respect to this study.
Would this, would you be looking for grants like you did on North Point Parkway to fund the pedestrian and improvements that are planned there?
Sure, that's a great question. Yes, absolutely. Grant opportunities would be something we would absolutely explore, not specifically to the windward area, but currently right now, myself as well as members of city administration are pursuing some grant opportunities in the Brookside area, doing public trail connections to Brookside Park, to the Big Creek Greenway. And so pursuing those kinds of opportunities for the windward area is something we'd absolutely investigate.
So will you be working regularly then with Milton to kind of push this along?
Yeah. So when this got approved, so when this got approved by the City of Milton's council just a couple weeks ago, I went and attended a meeting to kind of show that collaboration amongst the cities. They've indicated to focus on this area. Over the next few years, I actually got to watch their community development director give a presentation that night about further studies that they're pursuing in the Windward Deerfield area. So it's something I think absolutely that both cities share a focus on, and we have a great working relationship with the City of Milton, so absolutely.
And if I missed this as a part of a DOT thing or something, I apologize. Is there an idea in here about kind of a connection, how you connect the two sides of 400? Like, is there some sort of a tunnel, trail, overpass, something that would, with all this walkability and biking, that would address that it really is sort of the two
Right.
halves.
And that's a great question. It was something that did consistently come up, and I apologize, did not cover that piece. But yes, it was brought to the attention of the consultants that connecting the east and the west side is very important, and it was an idea that would be through some kind of trail connectivity or widening of sidewalks when Windward Parkway is redesigned. Things like that. So it was part of kind of that overarching trail narrative. I didn't specifically mention to it, but yes, that is absolutely something that we made sure the consultants were aware of. It was important to both cities. It's connecting on either side of 400. 400 is not going to go away. We're going to have the BRT in the area as well, which will be an added benefit. But yes, connecting is very important as well.
Wasn't there at one point a plan to have a connection north of Webb Bridge and south of Windward?
I'm going to turn that one over to James. He seems very familiar with it.
Yes, sir. So what you're speaking to is what is being termed trade winds. Trade winds is going to be a dedicated access to and from the Georgia 400 Express lanes, connecting North Point Parkway and West Side Parkway. There may be some opportunity with that for pedestrian connectivity, but that's not really its primary intent. We do have, as part of our Webb Bridge Corridor project, which is ongoing right now, is under construction, that project actually will coincide and carry over to West Side Parkway. Right now, we're working between North Point and Webb Bridge Way, but eventually it will come to the west of North Point Parkway, and those pedestrian improvements along the Webb Bridge corridor will continue through that piece. We have looked at some other things on Windward Parkway specifically, and I know that the city of Milton is looking at some things that would take Deerfield Parkway and create some trail connections in that area connecting over to the Union Hill area. And of course, we've got all of that tying into the McGinnis Ferry project and the extension of the Greenway to connect into Forsyth County. So what Milton is looking at is how they can connect to that northern extension of the Greenway.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, questions, comments on the Windward LCI? All right, well, we might as well keep going with Lance then.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn some of the updates over to Charlotte to run through you all.
Great. We'll give Lance a break after all of that. So we've had a busy, I guess, 2 months since we saw you last. Economic development has been on the move. We've had a project come here for a national search. We're seeing more research and development and light infrastructure looking to potentially relocate. Last week, we met with a group that is a international company looking to relocate their U.S. headquarters, and we are in the final round between the city of Alpharetta and a metro in North Carolina. So that was exciting to see. It was great to hear feedback. They were excited about a number of different sites that they saw, and they were also really interested to see the different changes that the city and development authority have made that show a willingness to listen to businesses and to adapt to things like code changes that allow for more research and development by right that was done a couple of years ago. The South Main LCI, so a little bit different than the Windward LCI here, was concluded in February, and we're now in the design phase of creating a placemaking monument, a gateway that will be somewhere on South Main Street. It will really welcome you into Alpharetta, into the downtown, and give you kind of a sense of where you are. City staff, as Lance mentioned, has been working on a Brookside Trail Connection grant. So this grant would help connect Brookside Park through to the Big Creek Greenway. And Lance has been working, along with some admin staff, with Senator Warnock's office, Senator Ossoff's office, and the office of Representative McCormick. The mayor and city administrator Chris Lagerbloom are meeting with these representatives in Washington, D.C. this week in coordination with the Greater North Fulton Chamber for a fly-in. Last week was Small Business Development Week, or Small Business Week, and we celebrated National Small Business Week by having the Small Business Development Center come to the Downtown Business Leaders meeting and provide an informational update on what free resources are available to small businesses. So this was the first time we had gotten the representative who works in all of Fulton County to come here and really do some outreach, and they're interested in holding more classes here and doing more collaboration in the future, so that was a great step. We've got some props here. You've got the Atlanta Business Chronicle. This was one of our advertising initiatives. We did some paid media in coordination with our other North Fulton cities. In it, you will find a feature section that includes a feature on, one, the tech hub that Alpharetta is, and highlighting some of our tech businesses and some recent moves, and also a highlight on some of the potential redevelopment that might happen at North Point Mall. We had the North Fulton Futures Summit last Wednesday, at Sandy Springs Theater. This was in coordination, again, with the Greater North Fulton Chamber and with the other 6 North Fulton cities. And this was a great event. It was a chance where we had experts, panelists, all local experts, come and speak about challenges and opportunities that they see for North Fulton over the next couple of years, including those in housing, education, and in workforce development. Appen Media recently wrote an article about that, and you have a copy of that as well on the dais. The Alpharetta Business Summit is going to happen again this year. The second annual event will happen with the Alpharetta Chamber, and the city has been working closely with them to help plan the content for this event that will be November 14th. We are hoping that the city will be the lead sponsor for this event, and we have included an operating initiative in this year's budget request that will go for City Council to be the lead sponsor. Last year's event was great. We had a lot of different leaders in the business community. It was an all-morning event, and it was a great chance for local business leaders to network as well. I'll pause here as we've got some more to run through, but does anyone have any questions there about any of that?
I'll just comment. I thought the Business Chronicle articles were great. I got my copy last week and read it, and thought that's really well done. And congratulations to all of you that were involved in that. Second comment I'll make, kind of back to the Windward area, if I can go back there for a minute, but I would really love for us to be a little more aggressive with specific projects that we could ask grants, whether it's state, federal, MARTA, GDOT, whoever. And I think we need to be very specific and prioritize. I don't see that in this material, but I'm sure you probably have done some of that. There is such an opportunity there, and Deerfield as well. Milton should be right on board.
Yep.
A lot of empty office space, a lot of opportunity, but the connectivity, which is the overarching theme of what you talked about tonight, is still there. So I'd love to see a priority given to specific projects on how we can connect a little better east and west, as well as, the green space trail areas. So just
Absolutely. I think that's great feedback, Mr. Chatham, and something that actually definitely staff will take into account moving forward, and working with both the city of Milton and as well as internal staff. So thank you.
Yeah, and I can tell you that under Administrator Lagerbloom, he's one of the things that he's brought to the table is a more robust grant program. The city has not had that in a number of years, but we're in the midst of putting that prioritization together. Since over the past several months, we've been putting in place a couple of tools. One is grant management software, but we've also signed contracts with a lobbying firm that will help us at the federal level especially. We've usually done fairly well at the state level, but Mr. Lagerblum is used to playing with the feds, and so you're going to see us doing more of that. And then building our targeted grant programming around the council's priority areas that they've identified. So you will definitely see us very much more active, but more importantly, more strategic in how we go about it. For the past several years, it's been, oh, we heard about an opportunity, do we have anything? Now we're putting pieces in the field that will help us identify those programs, those opportunities that align with our strategic priorities, but more importantly, have the connections that will help us in making that, because a big part of being successful in the grant world is the relationships you have before you need to ask for them. And we've been out of the game too long to have those relationships in place ourselves, and that's why we've signed some of those deals.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll continue. One local small business that I wanted to highlight that we had a ribbon cutting for recently is Boarding Pass Coffee. So you might have seen the sign over here in City Center where Crave Pie used to be. Boarding Pass is a family-owned coffee grower, roaster, and coffee shop. They have a family-owned farm with family in Brazil, but they have been a presence at the Alpharetta Farmers Market for a number of years and had shops in Milton and Gainesville. They've decided to expand to Alpharetta, and they've started with a space on Old Milton, so actually over by North Point, near in the space that was previously occupied by PJ's Coffee. They've opened that one, and then they are currently renovating this space here in City Center and hope to be open in a number of months. But they're a great local business and excited to welcome them to the community as a brick and mortar. Speaking of also downtown, the city has now had requests from some downtown businesses for map signage. I've been with the city for almost 2 years, and that's one of the things that I've heard repeatedly from downtown businesses is that they've wanted pedestrian maps for people to be able to locate businesses a little easier. So the city is planning on putting in place 3 different static maps. So these are going to be traditional maps in metal signs that will be changed every so often throughout the year to accommodate businesses as they change. Right now, the plan is for 3 signs. I believe 1 near the Milton Avenue deck, 1 near the deck here on Park Plaza, and 1 near the town green. And 2 of these signs will be paid for by the Alpharetta Convention and Visitors Bureau, who's agreed to spend those funds, and the city Economic Development is requesting the funding for the 3rd sign as part of the proposed budget cycle with the city for this next year. String lighting has also been something that the businesses are now coming forward with a proposal for. So the string lighting that is over here on Commerce Street, right in front of City Hall, there's been a request to expand that or to replicate it elsewhere. So on Old Milton, there's a request to put some string lighting in between the buildings. It will string back and forth overhead, going from...
and if I may,
Milton
Avenue. Old Milton would be quite the endeavor.
That would be, yes. No. So, yes, Old Milton Avenue, it would go from where Old Canton Street and Old Roswell Street meet with Old Milton Avenue, where the Hamilton Hotel is, and then head down the street until it meets Old Roswell near Mini Olivia. So string back and forth. One of the local business owners has been heading up that effort, reaching out to the other businesses and other property owners, has already met with Georgia Power and has brought that proposal forward. So that is going to be part of the funding request that we're also asking for City Council in this next year's budget. The Alpha Loop Foundation, who our two board members who are part of are both absent tonight, but has been very active. They are currently at the Alpharetta Farmers Market every second Saturday of the month, so they'll be there this Saturday. They'll also be at Taste of Alpharetta this Thursday. They have, at their booths, they've had informational materials, and then they've also had some different merchandise that they give in exchange for donations. What's been really interesting, I've had the opportunity to spend some time with them on a Saturday morning at the farmers market, has been getting the feedback from residents who may or may not know about the Alpha Loop. The variety of reactions that we get is really interesting. Some people say that they love the Alpha Loop, that they're on it all the time. Others have no idea what it is. Some may have been on it, but they did not connect to the branding. And many of them don't know of the future plans for the Alpha Loop. So the foundation has been really busy kind of, one, having that hands on the ground outreach and explaining there with a map, but two, also holding some events. So every last Wednesday of the month, they have been meeting at Chiringa for a sip and stroll. Gather members of the community, and they do both a walking tour or a running tour, depending on what you prefer, talking about the history of the loop and the future plans for it. Last month, they partnered with the Alpharetta Chamber and had a little bit larger of an event than usual. They had a turnout of about 80 people. Jonathan Stacy from Fox 5 came and emceed the event. They collaborated with local business Core 57 to lead some stretching, and they did tours in groups, leading and walking through, talking about kind of how the Alpha Loop was a collaboration not only between the city and its residents, but also between the different developments, housing and office developments along that loop and the plans to expand it. So it was really kind of cool to see that growth, and looking forward to see how they grow in the future. And then this one is a little offbeat from the others, but I wanted to give you an update on the city agriculture plan. So the agriculture plan was passed by City Council in December of 2022, and Vice Chair Jill Bernard and I have both served on the implementation committee throughout 2023. As of April 1st, one of the projects has now come to fruition. You can now get free seeds in the Fulton County Library, both the Alpharetta and Milton location. This has been kind of one of the suggestions that came out of that study to encourage residents to grow their own flora and fauna, and this has been kind of an interesting, different thing, but an educational aspect, working with volunteers to pack seeds. All of the seeds are donated, and they allow the library to, one, get more people through the doors, but also for them to connect to the educational material that they have on gardening there. The City Agriculture Division has launched 2 small-scale grant programs. One, a pollinator certification program where your yard can be certified as a pollinator garden, and another is a community composting program. So they've worked with a composting dehydrator vendor that is providing home composting bins at a much discounted price to a number of people as a pilot program. There will then be compost bins at Old Rucker Farm and then soon at Wills Park that allow people to put their dehydrated food waste there. And then finally, which is most of interest to the local business, is that the city has been working with the Alpharetta Business Association to get SNAP and EBT accepted at the Alpharetta Farmers Market. So this kind of helps both businesses and residents in that it allows residents of all income levels to have a little bit more access to fresh food and nutrients, but it also allows some of these local vendors to get access to different customers that they might have before. So the ABA is currently in the process of applying for the USDA certification, and then after that they plan to apply for a grant from Wholesome Wave, Georgia, which would potentially double the SNAP dollars that they each receive. And then finally, I wanted to turn it over to James Drinkard, because the city has had a number of different infrastructure and facility improvements open within the last month or about to open, and I wanted to give him a chance to talk about that.
Can I ask a quick question real quick? What's going on with the downtown Alpharetta district? We haven't heard much about it lately.
That's a great question, Mr. Allen. So recently, there's kind of been a little bit of a restructuring, if you will, in terms of the DTA agreement moving forward. The Chamber is very much in gratitude of the funds that the Development Authority has dispersed over the past several years to get the DTA branding, website, and events up. It's something that has created the brand that we all now know. Under new leadership, new directives have been put in place where the DTA is not dissolving, but it's going to take on a new look. It's going to be run by one of the Alpharetta Chamber's board members as a committee. There's still going to be events. The city's going to still play a role. And as per the MOU from last year that was executed, the city, i.e. the Development Authority, actually gets custody back of the downtown website, in which we're moving forward. Staff and potentially a consultant would be updating that and keeping it abreast. There's still the potential for a little bit maybe more invigorated partnership with the Chamber down the road, but right now with a bit of restructuring with new leadership, they are they're really trying to get their boots on the ground and kind of execute through this next year with a new leader, and maybe come back to the table down the road. But the DTA still exists. It's in a different format, and as such, it's something I think that staff can talk with some of the representatives from the DTA to give maybe a verbal update to the Development Authority, given the Development Authority's history with that entity, maybe at our June meeting.
So as of right now, we don't expect the Chamber to come forward and renew that MOU that you previously have been renewing for the last 2 years. It was set to expire as a 3-year MOU at the end of June. So we are working through resolving that. But the city has been working with the Chamber to co-facilitate monthly meetings to the downtown business leaders the first Wednesday of every month at 2 p.m. Over in the community room. And we're still doing that just in kind of different forms of involvement. And then we have also had the Downtown Advisory Board, and we are working to see what form that would take as to whether some groups can join and it can be more business-led rather than just having the city kind of leading a call and response, but hearing more initiatives from them. Part of this also came with the both the lighting proposal and the sign proposals were things that we heard directly from businesses and business leaders, but that were not necessarily going through the channels that we were expecting them to under the previous structure. So we're trying to tailor the structure a little bit to also fit what is most efficient.
Would it be possible to have Deborah's replacement come talk to us?
Yeah, it's something certainly we could talk to her about to see if she or a member of the board would be able to kind of walk you all through some of the more recent changes and kind of that continuity. So it's something that Charlotte and I will look into and see if we can get on the agenda for June or July.
That would be great.
All right, so we've got a number of things going with our facilities and infrastructure. I'll start off with some of the things happening with our parks, because there's been a lot. May and June have turned into ribbon cutting months for our parks. We started actually back on April 18th down off of Mansell Road with the boardwalk for the Greenway. That's been something that has been a desperate need for a while for that to be replaced, and that section of the Greenway has been closed for quite a while. That reopened on the 18th, and then coming up on, of course, the 28th, we had the farewell party for Wacky World, getting ready for Wacky World 2.0. Not the most inventive name, but it's going to be fun when we get that done. May 1st, we finally opened the Mid-Broadwell Park. That has been one that was funded by two different parks bonds. The first parks bond funded the acquisition of the property And the second parks bond, the 2021 bond, funded the build out of the space. Had a great turnout for that. That park is one of our many neighborhood parks that we're starting to construct as we work towards that goal of having a public park space within a 10-minute walk of every Alpharetta resident. This just Sunday, we opened the first dog park on the east side of Alpharetta. That's the Webbridge Dog Park. That may have had the largest turnout of a ribbon cutting that we've had in quite a while, which is kind of fun and kind of scary at the same time, I guess. But it was definitely one of the more fun ones because every time we'd say something about what was happening, the crowd would start to clap. Well, that made all the dogs bark, and one would start to howl. It was great. May 16th at 2:30, we will officially open the Waters Road Park, our next neighborhood park there at Kimball Bridge and Waters Road. The week of May 19th, we will open the new Web Zone Playground at Webbridge Park. And then on June 1st will be the largest of the ribbon cuttings we've got, which is phase 3 of the Alpha Loop. That's the section that goes effectively from Old Milton Parkway to North Winds. That one's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you'll join us on that. We'll be getting an invitation to you. Probably won't happen tomorrow because there's a little event happening out here that'll have us tied up, but Friday. So June 1st at 9:30, we'll have the ribbon cutting at the new Overlook Bridge, which is probably the most scenic part of that entire project. And as part of that, the Alpha Loop Foundation is planning a number of events that will be happening that day in conjunction with it, different activities, possibly some food trucks, some other things. We're going to be meeting Friday? Yeah, Friday with their event planner to nail all of that down, but some great things happening there. In June, we have 3 others that we don't have dates for yet. The groundbreaking for the Webbridge Park Turf Project, that will put artificial turf on the upper soccer field, and huge project for us that will be a big help. We lose a lot of days of use of the soccer field there at Webbridge. We will break ground on the next phase of improvements at Wills Park, our largest park, and we will open the new Equestrian Center arena. So all of that happening just in parks within a couple of months. We have started construction on that middle phase of the Webbridge improvements. So at this point, we've had the bookends, right? We had the roundabout, which is now active, still construction happening, but the roundabout at Webbridge Way is now operational. On the west end, we've been working down around the replacement of the bridge near Alpharetta High, and now we have started construction on that midsection. For those who live along that corridor, I'm sorry, it's about a 2-year project, but when it gets done, it will be very similar to what we've done along Rucker Road. So great pedestrian connectivity, take that corridor and really focus it more in terms of design as a neighborhood collector and less as a commuter corridor. So slowing that traffic down and getting it directed to some of our commuter corridors, Old Milton Parkway, McGinnis Ferry, where we have larger improvements ongoing. The big announcement, and some of you may have seen it, 12 o'clock tomorrow, the bridge on Kimball Bridge Road reopens. We're really very proud about that because it was guaranteed to take a year. That bridge closed on May 8th last year. We're opening it on May 8th. So by God, we made a year. The full project will not be done until around August, September. We've got striping, landscaping, things like that to do. But we also have what we refer to as the Kimball Bridge Road Gap Project. That will be undertaken by the city and True North 400. For those of you who don't remember, that's the CID. And that goes from the end of GDOT's bridge project to North Point Parkway. So it'll take that four travel lane configuration that we began at Waters and moved to North Point, and GDOT took on with the bridge, and it will make that connection. Now, while we're all excited about the vehicular connectivity that is going to provide, the biggest, in our opinion, one of the biggest benefits is actually to bike and pedestrian connectivity. And that's because this is going to help us form a connection between the Big Creek Greenway and the Alpha Loop. So we're really excited about that. A lot of big things happening and more on the way. Look forward to sharing that with you in days and weeks ahead. So if I can answer any questions on any of that or anything else, please let me know.
Web Bridge. You said that they finished. I don't drive there intentionally because I don't like sitting in that traffic, but I've got a lot of people who had questions in regards to the bridge. Mm-hmm. So is the bridge finished, or at least the one side?
I was going to say, yeah, the bridge is not done, but yes, it is partially done.
Partially done.
And so you're starting to see what that's going to look like upon completion. We still have a fair amount to go.
And so I assume they'll just eventually direct traffic onto the one side and then do the other side to, okay. That's what I told them, but I was just guessing.
Yep, that was a good guess.
Educated guess,
Good
maybe.
guess.
Well, thank you very much for the update. I think with that, do we have any other issues that we need to address? No? Well, with that, I guess we are adjourned. So thank you very much, everybody.